Oh, I got carried away again. Alex, I love you. You know that.
Back at you.
Okay, here we go. We are being recorded, so no swearing anymore, ladies and gentlemen. And here we go. Mark is not with us today. He sends his apologies. And I've got a few things thanks to you. It was a very busy 2 weeks since our last meeting, and that is driven by politics, I'm afraid. So let me start with Ukraine. There were quite a lot of messages from myself, famous message 190, where I'll keep everybody posted and keep sending your messages. As you can see, we are sharing them immediately. The good news is that flights are still continuing, not as general public messages are going back and forth saying that Lufthansa, KLM, and the others stopped flying to Ukraine. What they mean is they stopped flying to Kiev. The flights to Odessa are still continuing as far as I'm concerned, and I've checked with two companies today, and they seem to be okay. Odessa is working well. Seafarers are being dispatched and received back home. You saw my message from Martrust regarding banking issues, and maybe today's meeting is actually pretty good with that, since we've got another member dealing with monetary issues, and we can ask Rupert and Francesco later. Greg is with us, Stuart is with us as well. So if we do have any questions regarding this, then I believe we can postpone them until we finish with presentation. As far as vaccination is concerned, thank you very much. I'm receiving responses to my question yesterday. We seem to be doing very well. Average is going up. Give me another 2 days to receive all information I am collecting from members. Omicron. That is an interesting one, because if you remember 2 weeks ago, we were in a bit of a panic that Omicron is actually stopping our ships. We are having a lot of trouble with clearing vessels and so on and so forth. Now, when I checked last messages from you, it looks like we've got very few Omicron cases on board of our ships, which is brilliant, which is very, very good. I think this is reflecting what we are seeing in every country, in every place, which is good. I wouldn't like to say we are winning here, but it's not as bad as it seemed 2 weeks ago. And RightShip. My message went to all of you. Thank you. I received a lot of responses. I will be in touch with our executive committee shortly, maybe even this afternoon, because some of your responses are a bit controversial, I should say, and I'm not sure I'm brave enough to send them back to everybody, and RightShip is our member. So I would rather like somebody else as a critical friend to have a look at messages received from you and tell me whether we are okay to send it to the public and world. Meantime, I have tried to be in touch with RightShip, and I offered them this forum, and I'm trying to invite them for one of our 60-minute meetings so they can sit down with us and discuss the motives and reasons they are planning to ask those questions. They already started asking questions about vaccination of seafarers, but it would be good to receive our feedback, I suppose. So I'm very happy to continue dialogue with them. Meantime, Intertanko and Intercargo are of the same opinion as we are, that the questionnaire is far too detailed and is going outside of RightShip remit as far as we are concerned. So we shall see what this brings. Now, this is all on my agenda, but as I mentioned so many issues, is there anything urgent you would like to comment immediately? Ukraine, vaccination, Omicron, and RightShip. Anybody would like to add anything? Any comments from you? No. Okay. Well, it took me only 5 minutes, so I'm going very well. So that was update from myself, and I could then afford to open the floor for our guest speakers today, Rupert and Francesco. Rupert, are you going to share the screen now, aren't you?
I think, yeah, Francesco, if you can just share. So
we'll do just now.
Well, thanks, Captain Kuba. So we're going to run through a presentation today. Francesco is going to take us through it. And basically, this is presentation today on maritime payments ecosystem. What's the kind of the state of play in the industry, and what are the types of innovations that are coming down the line? And very much welcome, questions at the end from the crowd. So thanks very much.
Yes, hi everyone. Good morning, afternoon, depending on where you guys are based. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Francesco Gianni Guizzardi. I'm Global Head of Payment Solutions for MoneyCorp, and thanks everybody to be on this call today. Thank you, Kuba, for giving the opportunity to share this deck and some of this information on essentially on the maritime payment ecosystem. This is going to be more of a high-level explanation rather than a deep dive into the single aspects of them. So let me go to slide 2. So first of all, I just wanted to give everybody a bit of an overview of the maritime payments ecosystem. And in general, I think most of you attending today fall in one of the categories of maritime stakeholders. So whether you're a ship owner, ship management agency, or a supplier, or a port terminal or shipyard, essentially all of these form what we categorize as the maritime ecosystem. You guys know it better than I do. It's historically, it's a USD-led industry. It's been like this for many years, but there is a sign of evolution. There's a sign of change towards more local and local currencies. With that said, there is still a very high percentage of payments which are going out as dollars. So most of the payments going out as USD, despite beneficiaries, so these being suppliers, seafarers, shipyards, or sometimes even ports and terminals, actually not holding a USD account or actually sending payments in or invoicing in non-USD currency. So the overall idea is that there is an established network, and which all of you form. And what we've realized is that there are 4 main aspects today that affect the maritime cross-border payment system. So this being speed, transparency, cost, and coverage. I mean, speed is something you guys probably in one way or another always comes across. How long does it take to get a payment when it gets initiated to the beneficiary? With that comes transparency, which is where's that payment? More often than not, payments are lost. You're not able to track them. Current banking and financial institutions don't give us stakeholders like the ability to track those payments going through. And I mean, coverage is ever more. It's on the mouth of everyone. Like just if we think today, and I touch on what Kuba was talking about earlier, Ukraine and Russia based is how many times like we try to send a payment and it's just either you can't pay in that area or it bounces back because there's no visibility on what's the coverage for a specific payment rail. And cost is associated to pretty much every payment. So when we, as industry experts, so whenever we send out this question, which is how many times have you experienced a payment problem in at least one of these areas, more often than not, and I can see some people nodding here and there, it's like everybody's come across an issue with one of these four aspects of payments. So we're looking at it from take a step back and we look at it like, okay, what are the operational challenges within maritime payments? And what opportunities are there that we can grab overall, like as a holistic high level? So first of all, think of payments, whether it's a pay in or pay out, credit or debit, everything relies on accounts. So no matter how we want to get paid, the card, non-card, the wire, SEPA, you name it, it all starts and ends with an account. So a lot of stakeholders, a lot of ship owners and ship management agencies in particular hold a multitude of accounts across a number of financial institutions, being because of where vessels are registered, being because of the number of subsidiaries. So what we've seen in the industry is that it's massive opportunity for everyone to consolidate and centralize these accounts into one single place, or at least to try and centralize them as much as possible into one single place. And with that comes the cash pooling opportunity, which is once you've got everything in one place, it then becomes a lot easier for treasurers and for FDs to aggregate balances across these multiple entities. On the next slide, I will go and touch and deep dive into the account solution, but going from the account and what we just said, it's at the base of collections and payouts. That ultimately will improve the international cross-border payments. So this is the ability, as we were mentioning in slide 1, on unpegging ourselves from the dollar-based industry and looking at how we can kind of like manage and control our multi-currency payments and FX to deliver local payments. Local payments comes also reduced costs, and these are not always solutions that are necessarily coming from existing banking institutions. So I think I'm sure a few of you guys today know that and actually use non-financial institutions to process some payments or to process some sort of card-based solution. So that's really where we're seeing there's an opportunity in the industry is to look beyond the existing banking financial institutions that have supported us for many years and to see what's out there. And ultimately, I mean, the multiple stakeholder challenge is exactly what I said at the beginning. There's a number of different players in this industry. They all pay each other pretty much very regularly on a daily basis to some extent. And the opportunity is like, how can we all collaborate together? Is there an opportunity to be as much as possible on a similar network or on a same network and streamline those payments? Looking at the account optimization. So I think it was very interesting when we were looking at the maritime payments ecosystem. It's very interesting to look at how many accounts are scattered globally for a lot of the players in the industry. And one thing we really think has popped up in the recent years is an account and sub-account structure. You can call it parent-child. You can call it, like we called it here, top-level account or sub-account. But essentially is streamlining and optimizing bank accounts. And the ultimate goal is to achieve efficiency. So these are usually multi-tiered accounts. They sit on top level, and this could be a ship owner, top level, and a number of vessels underneath, and they all roll up and they all can consolidate balances. Or for you ship agencies online today, it can be one of your clients managed accounts and each individual vessel, or even your top headquarter and all of your subsidiaries underneath. So that gives massive control to headquarters, understanding what's actually happening with those accounts. It cuts the cost massively because it reduces the number of accounts. We've got to think that when we look at this top level account here, it's essentially what it is one account. The bottom sub accounts, although they are recognized as accounts, they can have their own IBANs and credentials. They all still roll up to the top one. So that's basically where the operational efficiency comes in for a lot of the back office teams. And ultimately, as I said earlier, like these accounts and sub accounts enable to maintain funds segregated from each client, from each vessel, so you know exactly what's coming in, what's coming out. And if we look at how these accounts can be managed and what they can actually do is be a one-stop account for all of the type of payments that any stakeholder is doing out of those accounts. So being all the way from payroll, so paying seafarers in a number of different jurisdictions, being supplier and vendor payments. So more and more we see these accounts being used in maritime marketplaces, so that you can actually aggregate these into one single place and leave the marketplace to settle to the suppliers or the shipyards. You can improve the optimization for payment routing. And this means sometimes there's this misconception that higher cost of payment means it's going to go faster, and what in reality happens is there is the ability out there in the network to have a low value payment go as fast as what we now recognize as a SWIFT express payment. That being because there's a number of networks that are connected into the account. So whenever it's making a local payment instead of an international payment, that's essentially how the system recognizes this. being able to aggregate payments all together, again, another massive benefit that these accounts have the ability to do is just one payment in as a file, or some industries like to automate it via API. And so one payment in, one file in, and allow the banks or the non-financial institution to essentially make multiple payments out. So it reduces the headache of managing these payments. What happens, and the consequence of this, is improved cash flow. So you move money faster, payments get faster to beneficiaries, as well as you're able to consolidate through the cash pooling balances in a more educated manner, and it drives additional revenue because payment terms can be improved, and there's less complaints on missing payments, and it's just on an overall, as an overall solution, it drives efficiency. Ultimately, I mean, if we look at where we started from, and I did want to purposely keep this presentation brief. I think it's in the interest of everyone to kind of like either have lots of questions come in, but kind of like digest a little bit what we've talked about today. Is where do we see the future of payments going towards? Swift GPI, I mean, some of this is already an existing in place solution, and it solves that transparency issue we spoke about earlier. So essentially, it's a tool that allows you to track your payment. I think we all use Amazon. We all like to know when the parcel's being dispatched, where it is, when it's with the courier, when it's arriving. Same thing you can do with a payment now these days. So if you're able to actually connect this into your system, it's a massive value add especially when there's a request for ports to release vessels, or whether there's suppliers waiting for payments to come through for release of goods. Secondly is the payment network aggregator. So this goes back to a little bit to what I mentioned earlier with regards to aggregating a lot of financial and non-financial institutions into one place. So a lot of these aggregators allow you to essentially choose whatever rail you want to go through. And it's not just about a rail, but it's also about pricing. Having the ability to have multiple banks price against each other means that you ultimately it's like as if you're signing up with 10 banks in one place. And then the last one is a bit of a teaser that I've personally seen go around in the industry for many years, and it's still very much a topic of debate and discussion, which is how do we get everybody on the same network? Is there a way or an opportunity for everybody to be on the same network and to pay each other? And this being buyers and suppliers. Buyers, as in you ship owners and agency and industry supply and the industry shipyards, or suppliers being anyone who's related to the maritime supply chain. So if these two entities would sit on the same payment network, ultimately you can exchange funds pretty much instantly. So that's the ultimate goal. I think it's our ultimate goal. It's the ultimate goal of everybody in the InterManager Association, and it's the ultimate goal of banks as well. I think we've all did one or two times. We've always tried to send money across to each other, family members, and when it's within the same bank, it just goes pretty much instantly and very fast. When we do that across suppliers, there's always like a massive delay. So realistically, this is kind of like for me a way to open and I leave it to the floor to leave like a bit of questions and find out if you do, going back to that rhetorical question, you do experience pains within this payments process, and if there is anything specific you want to ask me.
Excellent, thank you. You are going fast as
Kuba.
well.
Yeah, I mean, keep it short and sweet.
You are indeed very good. I do have questions. They were coming here, and I've got several of them. So let me start. First of all, we've had some issues paying suppliers in countries like Brazil, China, and India. Do you have any specific tools or experience in these areas?
Thank you, Kuba. I don't know who that question came from, but realistically, it's very valid. I mean, there's two aspects to making payments, and specifically for you address those countries we spoke about. One is supplier payments. So if we're looking to doing supplier payments, the idea is being able to have a strong network of local banks and local institutions that can support you to payment there. Like if I speak on our behalf, I mean, having entities in some of these locations and having local partners is where we've literally collect a lot of benefit in giving out the ability to pay even same day when it comes to Brazil, for instance, or paying locally in China. When we're looking at payment being seafarer payments, so anything related to payroll, then it's a matter of being able to deliver full amount. So that only comes with having, and you can only do it via a local partner if you want them to collect local currencies. So there's always that discrepancy. Do I pay dollar? How much dollar is going to be converted by the bank? So definitely, yes, it's countries we do serve, and we help with some of our clients. Some of them are on this call today to do such payments.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned back office in passing, and people are wondering what kind of impact does using a multi-bank bank network system have on the back office?
On the back office, essentially what it does, it makes it easier for the account payables department and for FDs to manage payments. So right now, I think what we come across is there's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of not just confusion, but there's a lot of human intervention that goes within all these payments. And so the back office efficiency and the back office question, that's why I spoke about it. It's very much related to how do we reduce the human input when doing these payments, meaning that there's less error. There's less need for somebody to double check, because the system just picks up all payments and processes them, and then just uploads statements automatically within a platform, whether it's the top account or the sub accounts we spoke about earlier.
Okay, thank you. And there is another question. You seem to advocate a lot on singular account. But we, especially members of InterManager based in Cyprus, we had a disaster when we actually had one account in one of the banks which stopped existing, completely ceased existing, and we had a serious cash flow issue. How would you deal with that if we were really not sharing, not spreading the risk, or making sure that we do have several accounts in several banks, or maybe even several countries as it is? Could you comment on that?
I think that's a great question, and I think it addresses probably something I should have explained better, which is these accounts are not intended to replace existing banking relationship. These accounts are intended for operational use. So when we're talking about having a single account, we're talking about being able to have single accounts for specific operational purposes. So if we think of a ship owner having multiple vessels underneath and having the ability to process all of those payments out of one account, then that's a real benefit. When it comes to funding that account, we're massive advocates of, if you want to have a house bank, or if you want to have multiple banks and multiple currencies as entities, as top level entities, then we're all about it, because we as providers, we use banks and we need the banks as well. And we would never ask anyone to kind of like shut down any of the other banking relationships.
Understood. Thank you. Opening the floor now. Any questions? Hands up, please. Maciek.
Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear, but it's not Maciek, I think. Maciek first.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Hi. No, thanks for very good presentation. Maciek from Scorpio, as I hope you can see. Just testing the new background here. Quick one on the payment solution. I see that the presentation is co-branded together with the Ship Money. Can you explain a little bit about the relationship, as well as where do you see the payments to the crew members and the seafarers in this ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Ship Money and MoneyCorp partnership is essentially born from the necessity of having the ability to both perform corporate payments as well as a seafarer payment, payroll payments, both on a bank-to-bank wire capability as well as a card one. So obviously from the MoneyCorp side, we're very much geared up for the bank-to-bank transfer capability, while Ship Money instead is super strong on the card seafarer capability. So that's how the relationship was born, and pretty much out of necessity for both of us to be best in class instead of going out there and just building everything ourselves.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know who else was speaking. Stuart, was it you?
Yes. Hi, Magic. That was a great question, and I hope Francesco answered your question. I just want to just fill in a little bit of a blank regarding the question about a multiple bank network. And Francesco and Rupert, please jump in to elaborate on this. But the idea basically is routing. And if you're sending funds to Asia, it can be routed through a bank relationship in Asia. If you're sending it through a payment in Europe, it can be routed through multiple banks, or here in the United States. So the real opportunity basically is a leveraging of multiple bank networks, which provides additional coverage with regard to the situation the InterManager has, as well as creating cost efficiencies. And that is the benefit basically of working with this approach. So I just wanted to, I'm not sure that point was properly highlighted.
Thank you, Stuart, for that. And we've got Rajesh with question.
Thanks, Cuba. I just want to, just for the benefit of the other members here, we have been, I see our good old friend, Mr. Stuart Ostro, is also online here. So he will say that, Campbell was one of the very early partners of using the ship money, and we've been doing this for many, many years now. And I think we're primarily using this for crew payroll. And we have some crew members who, take the whole of salary onto the ship money card. So paying some few crew members around the world is very, very easy. And we haven't had any issues or concerns, and it's been running quite smoothly for quite some time now. And we have seen the volume grows. My question was that the ship money identification of an account is still on a ship money customer ID, and there's a Visa card. So there is still a physical card in place. And there have been multiple platform and transaction where a mobile phone and all the KYC and the identity is now going to a mobile phone. So you can linking a mobile phone to your bank account, and that way, you don't have the card in place. Do you think, something like e-wallet or that in future, a seafarers with his mobile phone registration will be able to, facilitate transactions without having a physical card?
Yeah, I think sometimes that words are used loosely. Fintech being one of them, and e-wallet being another one. And we actually, and thank you, Captain Raj, for your kind words. We know each other for a long time. I think you were actually our second client, actually before most of the services or a lot of services were ever built. But our solution set includes what we call virtual cards, which is an e-wallet plus. And when I say an e-wallet plus, it uses Visa virtual card technology, which essentially is a live card on Visa's system, which means you can actually use it for online purchases, but there's no physical card. And that also can be used in mobile wallets. So we don't necessarily go about, touting an e-wallet because in all candor, I'm sometimes confused myself as to what really an e-wallet is. So we offer solutions for our clients and crew members outside of a physical card as well. And an example basically is if a crew member loses his physical card and he is remote, we actually replace it to a virtual card, and that is done online through customer service. We have other clients that actually use them as an alternative to physical cards because it can all be done electronically without necessarily the distribution of the physical cards. So I I just wanted to, sort of fill in the blank in terms of this concept of our system or use case outside of physical cards. Did that answer your question, Captain Rush?
Yes, Stuart. Thanks for the information. And I think the team in Campbell needs some more education and updating of the facility you just mentioned, because for us, the administrative aspect of connecting a card to a seafarer is still, we need to, if it is virtual card, then I think we would be able to connect a seafarer in Ethiopia or Myanmar or wherever quite easily. We don't have to go through the annular process. So I think if something can go out to educate the team members, that'll be good. My second question, a very quick one. I'm just picking up some financial brains here. It may be a far-fetched question, but just taking an opportunity nevertheless. How do you see the cryptocurrency, doing that? I mean, how do you see that impacting? Because now you can buy a cup of coffee with the crypto, and how do you see the future?
I'm gonna answer it, and then I'm gonna pass the mic over to Fran for his question as well. If we look at this industry and how archaic in some respects it is, the paperwork involved in terms of chartering, and the manual process in terms of paying crew members, and then you look at crypto. I think industry-wide it will take a long time to ultimately get there. On a personal level, until the governments of the world validate it and basically create rules around it, I still think it is quite speculative. We have looked at it, and one of the things we're looking at is basically how that fits into crew members and whether crew members may or may not be interested in purchasing it. But I would caution any client basically to look at that relative to their crew member pay or even payments. It's just too speculative at this point.
And Stuart, just to kind of add to that, I think obviously if you look at the first slide that Francesco presented, currency needs to be there needs to be trust behind it, and there needs to be, as Stuart said, regulation. So that's why the industry is still very highly dollarized, because using the reserve currency, that's the trusted currency, and that's the one that that has been used by the maritime industry. So I think, Francesco, I don't know if you want to add anything more to that, but in terms of obviously not having a central bank or some sort of bank that would control that would also add to the chance of volatility. Which would also create, doubts in terms of, the stability of that particular cryptocurrency.
I think I can only echo what both of you said and add the fundamental issue with the massive adoption of crypto is it lies in two parts. Yes, you can buy a cup of coffee, but no, you can't buy a cup of coffee everywhere. And the other part of it is there's a lot of banks who are still very much crypto agnostic. So in order to process all of those crypto-related transactions, you need to align too many players, which from a seafarer perspective is you need to find a coffee shop that accept crypto. You need to have a card which you're paid as a seafarer, which is crypto enabled, which means the card issuer needs to have some sort of agreement with a crypto exchange, which allows you to exchange your dollar salary into whatever cryptocurrency you need to use. And that crypto exchange needs to have a bank supporting them. Now, if we roll it all the way up to the bank, that's where the fundamental problem lies. A lot of banks don't want to deal with any of the crypto exchanges. They're still unfamiliar with them, and they still treat them as some sort of like a high risk asset, which to all the respect, in some cases it is, but definitely it's something we'll see in the short future come down. I mean, if we look outside of the industry, there's a number of cards available which have crypto tied to it. So I think it's just a matter of time before it gets there. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but again, we're not 10 years away from it.
Francesco,
if I may jump in, because
yes, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, talking about security and whatnot. Given the political environment right now going on in Russia and Ukraine, in conversations with clients over the last couple of days and yesterday, and concern about remitting payments into those countries. You know, I said to somebody yesterday, if I was sitting in front of Russian or Ukrainian crew members, I would counsel them to say, listen, your best my best advice to you is basically to keep money, as much money as possible, outside of your country, given the uncertainty. And if we go back in time to the Ukrainian bank crisis a number of years ago, where there were capital restrictions in terms of the ability to take out funds. Funds are held in the United States. They're individually federally insured by the FDIC insurance. They can sit in those accounts essentially forever. They are safe, secure, protected, and outside the reach of those governments. And I think that all of us, given this uncertainty, is something that we probably want to convey to the Russian and Ukrainian seafarers as an alternative. So we're going to actually start messaging that shortly. So I just want to throw that out. I also want to elaborate in terms of this, if I may, Captain Cuba, in terms of an e-wallet. We offer an e-wallet. Our e-wallet is a virtual Visa card. And it has multiple applications in addition to funds sitting in an account on a phone. It can be used for online purchases. All of the functionality, future functionality that exists within our system are available on virtual cards. And in some circumstances, some ATMs out there are actually able to be used using RDF technology. So I just want to elaborate in terms of this confusion potentially about the definition of an e-wallet and where ship money stands relative to that. We offer an e-wallet. We just don't call it an e-wallet. We call them virtual cards, one and the same.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make a comment on cryptocurrency. It has been 3 years since we had cryptocurrency theme of one of our AGMs, and we have invited at that time, guru on the UK market for cryptocurrency, a very good speaker. And I'm afraid I have to report that he failed to ignite us. He did not persuade shipping industry to jump into cryptocurrency. And Francesco, it's 3 years down the line now, and you are saying it will be shortly with us. I tell you, 3 years ago, he was telling us crypto is with us already. You have to be quick, guys. And then since then, I remember there was a crash. A lot of people were very happy that they were not crypto, and now they are obviously thinking, oh, maybe I should have been. So it's still this situation when I think we are very conservative indeed. And I think the list of things which you very fancily named made perfect sense with me. There is a lot of things which we cannot use cryptocurrency at the moment, and I think industry as such is waiting. I'm pretty sure if there was better facilities, then we would be there already. Okay, no more hands unless I'm not seeing them. Please, if you've got any questions, any comments, put your electronic hand up.
I just received an email from a colleague, and I just wanted to share this with the group. I thought it's timely, and it has nothing to do with money or crypto or currency. I'm going to read you the quote. Omicron is ripping through cargo ships, raising concerns that a surge in coronavirus cases, coupled with China's tightened quarantine requirements for vessels, could delay supply chain stabilization for the shipping industry. COVID-19 outbreaks are hitting ships globally, with cases increasing exponentially, said Francesco Garrigola, chief executive of the International Maritime Employers Council, which represents shipping companies. So, sometimes it's really hard to read through the clutter of what's real and what's not real out in the press. I'll forward this over to you, but I thought this was quite timely that I received this as we're talking about it in the context of this meeting.
Interestingly enough, on this call, I can see we've got Phil, we've got some other people who are in the same group as Francesco is. And tomorrow at 2 o'clock, I'll see Francesco eye to eye, and we will be talking. I think this quote is 2 weeks old.
Yep.
And 2 weeks ago, if you were asked to me, I would say the same. 2 weeks down the line, we do not see Omicron having an impact as we predicted it would have. So this problem with COVID-19, talking today, 23rd of February, I am far more optimistic, and I see less and less ships being affected than I was 2 weeks ago. So it's dynamic. Then that's definite. It's dynamically changing, and I will challenge. Well, I'll ask Francesco tomorrow, and say whether this quote is still available. Remember, it takes some time. Usually, you are being interviewed. It takes a few days before it's printed, then it spreads, and by the time you are quoting it, it's gone. The news is not that. So thank you for that. Appreciate that. But I think we are getting into the situation when indeed Russia, Ukraine is the more important thing now for all of us than COVID. And in a little chit chat before this meeting, we were just sharing information. How is US today? People are traveling now. Europe is traveling again, and so on and so forth. So I hear what you are saying, Stuart, absolutely, and I'm not dismissing it, but I think I'm trying to tone down now the panic created by COVID, because shipping industry for the last 2 years now always found a solution for that, and you were part of the solution. I admit that.
Well, and when you read this, and I'm going to forward this over to Kuba, it is to some extent, I don't want to call it sensationalism, but it just came to me today, and the research analyst, this company basically indicated that it was almost, indicated that it came out today, when in fact it's probably old news. So maybe forward this over to when you speak with Francesco, to say, hey, listen, got to be careful about consistent messaging, and obviously timeliness.
Very good point, and I really need that kind of feedback when I'm representing our members in the fora, like industry vaccination group or task force groups, or so on and so forth. So thank you, appreciate that.
Kuba, if you don't mind, I think you touched earlier on the Ukraine and Russian issue. If you don't mind giving the members like literally a 30-second update on coming from our side, we're very much involved in it on a daily basis. So I've been asked these questions for now 3 days in a row. Can we still pay Ukraine? Can we still pay in Russia? What's happening? What's going on? So ultimately, it is from a sanctions perspective. The US and the Treasury, they have, and I can share the link if you guys, if the members are interested in this, but there are a few banks which have been heavily sanctioned, and Russian banks, and those are banks which are tied with ads and are recognized as funding military activities. And there's a number of individuals which have been added to sanction lists. But ultimately, what we're seeing in the Ukraine region, especially, is yes, there are these two new areas which are being claimed and recognized by Russia. There are talks that they're going to be treated such as Crimea is and has been in the past years, so no pay zones. Right now, the message we're getting from the banks is do not send payments to Ukraine. But the reality of the fact is payments are not being stopped. So it's a bit of a contradiction of the one I'm saying. But this is a message that is coming down. If you have payments to Ukraine, it would be highly recommended not to make them directly there, or to find an alternative beneficiary if it's possible. But realistically, the banks there's no specific sanction that has gone out and no pay zones for those new areas. So all in all, it stays the same as it was with the addition of these new sanctions entities, and they're very much on the Russian side more than on the Ukrainian one.
Excellent, thank you. And I encourage you, through Stuart or Greg, if you've got any news, send them over to us. We share all this information with our members, because this is what InterManager is all about. Sharing information, pooling resources, and acting on behalf of all of us members. Rupert, Francesco, thank you. Very good. You have well abused me. It was supposed to be 15 minutes. It is half an hour now. So I don't know what to do with you guys. But no, you created a lot of friction, and that is good. That is precisely what we wanted. Now, I would like to close this meeting. Having said that, is there any other issue, any other business members would like me to be aware, or shall we discuss? I'm taking deep breath, waiting for the hand up. No. Therefore, I'm closing this meeting, thanking everybody. Watch out in 168 hours, which is 1 week from now. There will be another announcement for a meeting in 2 weeks' time, and I'll see you there. Meantime, enjoy and good luck. Thank you with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye for now. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.